All right, so welcome back to another episode of The Common Theory. I'm your host, Chris, along with my man, Dallas. We are back. We are excited. We have a very special episode for you guys where we will actually be doing our first set review. So I'm pretty pumped about it. We got a lot of really neat cards that just came out in this recent set. And I'm actually going to pass it over to Dallas, and we're going to be speaking about these commanders that we think.
Yeah, we can go ahead and start with commanders. First one up on my list here is Botanical Brawler. This is a new Selesnya commander, so it just costs a green and a white for a 0/0 elemental warrior with trample. When it enters the battlefield, it gets two +1/+1 counters, and whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on another permanent you control, if it's the first time +1/+1 counters have been put on that permanent this turn, then Botanical Brawler will get a +1/+1 counter. So it gets bigger whenever you put counters on your other permanents. And it's got trample, so it's just a big, stompy Selesnya commander. What are your thoughts on this one, Chris?
I mean, this is one of the first cards I saw, let's be honest, and I think it's pretty cool. But if we're going to keep true to what we are and what we've been doing thus far, with the tournament series and stuff like that, and kind of going along those lines, I will throw this little snippet out there for everybody. A lot of these are powerful, but I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make it into the tournament settings. Even though, I mean, you just heard Dallas, right? Like, he had to speak for, like, what, a minute and a half to tell you everything that card just said, right? Like, it was pretty absurd. But this card's pretty easily disrupted in, Selesnya.
Yeah, you do get a lot of protection pieces in white, and the inherent trample is probably the best part of the card, in my opinion. But yeah, it's still just Selesnya Voltron, or Selesnya +1/+1 counters, neither of which I think are particularly powerful in their own right. So it's cool,
Well,
but
like,
I don't think it's insane.
you're gonna run out of gas with a card like this. That's part of the issue, right? Like, where like other commanders like Gut, they don't need gas. They just start sacking their permanents, right? So it's kind of, well, built correctly. Let me throw that out there. But I think we're gonna have trouble with a few of these other commanders on the list. So
Yeah, next up is one that also suffers in a very similar way, but in other ways as well. I've seen a lot of people talking about it though, so we're going to talk about Copper Host Crusher. This is an 8 mana mono green commander, 6 and 2 green for a 8 mana 8/8 Phyrexian Bear Rhino with trample and hexproof. So, very simple commander. It's an 8/8, it two shots people, it has natural evasion, it has hexproof.
I mean, I I I I, I mean, I mean, I mean, like, bro, like, I think it's got cool art, right? Like, I think it's got cool art.
Yeah, I do not think this will see much tournament play. I think it's
Yeah,
cool. I think it's easy as a straightforward deck to give someone. I don't think it's super viable. Hexproof is a very good keyword, but
I mean,
yeah,
this is a bomb and like
limited.
casual, right? Though, like, yeah, right. Like, this thing is ridiculous, and the art. Once again, if you guys don't know the art on this card, you need to Google the art on this card. It is awesome. It makes no sense at all. It is a giant bear, two tusks. Like, this thing looks ridiculous. It looks like it has tusks, even though it doesn't. Like, it's horns, but it's just. I have no idea who drew this and why they drew it like in this manner. Right? It's just absurd.
Yeah, for sure. We can just move on pretty quickly from that one onto our next commander. We've got a Dimir commander up next. This is one blue and black for a 3/1 fairy rogue with flying called Halo Forger. And whenever Halo Forger enters the battlefield, you can pay X. And when you do, you get a cast target instant or sorcery with mana value X from a graveyard without paying its mana cost, and if it would go to the graveyard, exile it instead. So this is a sorcery speed snapcaster in the command zone, in a way. You do have to pay X to cast the spell, but you can also cast spells from opponents' graveyards. I expect this to just be casting card draw spells. Maybe if you're a Dimir Flicker deck and you can cast value Flicker cards from the graveyard, I think this commander is fine.
It should have been white. It should have been white. Like, if this was white, this would be insane, right? Like, if this was blue and white, it would just be. There's so many random, like, 1 mana return a permanent I control, like White Mane Lion, like all these cards that you could use to like block the way for you and hold down the fort while this thing just does all the work, right? But with this, like, you're gonna flicker it, so now we're paying like 2-3 mana per flicker, and you got to do it right then to where, like, White Mane, you could play it instant end of turn, return it to your hand. Like, it should have been white. Like, this is just so hard in black. Like, I wanted it to be blue and white, but once again, it's hard having faith in this one for me too. It's just
doesn't have much
time
consuming
consuming
potential. It's more just a value piece, and it's pretty expensive, being that you still have to pay the mana value to cast the spell.
Like, if it had flash, it would also be another selling point for me.
Flash would be amazing on this card, because then you could use it for counter spells and all that stuff.
But... Yep. So now we're talking, but like, once again, like, just the blue blacks, it's not doing it for me.
Yeah, I think you have better options in Dimir for tournament play, most likely.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on, we've got a mono green commander. We've got Kami of Whispered Hopes. This is 2 and a green for a 1/1 spirit that says if one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a permanent you control, then it gets that many +1/+1/+1 counters. And you can tap it for X mana, where X is equal to Kami of Whispered Hope's power. So it's a Hardened Scales and a Mana Dork on a 3-mana 1/1. Yep.
I mean, I don't think it's bad. if that's what you want me to say, like,
it's a good. I mean, Hardened Scales is never bad, right?
The card's sauce, right? The card is awesome. But if you put this in front of a Tatiova player, they're gonna laugh at you, right? They're gonna be like, "What is that? Like, are you serious right now?" Like, or, "Oh, hey, buddy, I have a Abdel. Like, what? Why'd you bring this to the table?" Right? Yeah. Like, this is it. Like, okay, so hang on. Let me throw this out there first, right? Gut is also 3 mana, right? Gut takes a little time to start turning the wheels and doing the thing, but this is mono green. I can't pair this with a background. I can't partner this up. I'm just stuck in mono green, right?
If this thing was Simic.
If this thing was ending
so
2 colors. Honestly, if this was white, it would be like green-white. Like, any pairing, I think this card would have been absurd. Just the extra color, like, just mono green? Like, mono green? Like,
yeah, I think it's just
hurts
for mono green. And you don't really get waste on tapping and go infinite in mono green. And maybe there's a way to, like, 7 mana or something, but, you know.
I mean, oof. We're asking for a lot, though, right? Like, in mono green, you're asking for a lot.
Alrighty. Up next, we've got another one that I've seen a lot of people talking about. We've got Kinra Spell Spear. This is an Izzet commander. It costs 1 and a red for a 2/2 Jackal Warrior with Trample and Prowess. And you can pay 3 plus a Phyrexian blue mana, so 3 mana and 2 life, to transform it, and that's sorcery speed. And then when you transform it, it becomes a 3/3 Phyrexian Jackal with Trample, Ward 2, Prowess, and Prowess. So this is big Voltron beat stick. It gets evasion, it gets protection, it gets a way to pump itself multiple times. It just gets massive. And once again, we have just another beat stick. It's in really good colors. It's in Izzet, but
Okay, so sorry to interrupt you, but like, dude, I'm gonna be going on like this about a lot of these, right? Also, too, by the way, my allergies are kicking you guys, so if you hear me kind of like sniffling and stuff like that, like I have been getting my ass kicked here the past week with my allergies, so bear with me. But Dallas, dude, I want this to be good. But let's just think about it, right? Let's just think about like a play pattern with this card. Because I mean, the fact of like prowess, like that's ridiculous. And natural like trample and ward. Like what are we, the card's ridiculous on the surface, right? Let's think about a play pattern. 1 mana, play anything. Let's just say tap lane to fix our mana, right? Easy peasy argument. Turn 2 commander. Turn 3 flip commander. Alright, so now we took the first 2 turns off. First 3 turns off. Now we start playing the game on turn 4. Dargo just killed you. If you're seeing a Dargo, it's killed you already. You just made it really easy for Dargo to beat your brains in, right? But now, I mean, like if Dargo's blitzing you, right?
That's assuming a turn 2 Dargo, right? Turn 3 Dargo, this is on pace.
Sure, but you haven't done anything, right? Like, so you're mulling to, you're just keeping your draws, right? We're not pondering, we're not preordaining, we're not brainstorming, we're not fixing any of our early draws, right? We're not drawing extra cards. We're just being dedicated to our commander. So we have to make sure we have the lands in the opener. We have like our game plan in the opener, so we're mulling aggressively to get these play patterns. And now let's just say it's sorcery speed, so we can't hold up interaction on turn 3. So if somebody just decides to play a Fleshbag Marauder, we're done. Like, we're done. Like, we are hurting. So whatever you pair this with, and I mean pairs in like your 99, your backup game plan has to be relevant, or the deck is just gonna fail.
Yeah, I think it has a lot of similar play patterns to Dargo, and that it's just a win condition in the command zone, turbo it out. But I think it's potentially less resilient. It doesn't get that cost reduction. It loses to a bit more things. It does get the ward, which is nice, but you have to flip it at sorcery speed to do that.
Which is so rough.
Annoying.
I mean, and then you could pay the mana, and then the trigger goes on the stack, and they can snuff it out, and then you're like the super feel bads, right? Like you're like, oh, the dagger, or the thunderclap to make you feel even worse about yourself. Like, oh. So I mean, there's just so many cards in the format, like in competitive play, like snapback, like the list goes on forever. That cards can interact with this and just give you the super feel bads about it.
Yeah. So next up, we've got one that I personally think is pretty decent. We've got Omen Hawker. This is a 1 mana 1/1, 1 blue mana for a Cephalid Advisor that taps to add a colorless and a blue mana, and you can spend it only to activate abilities. So the stipulation is kind of rough, but this is a freed from the real commander, typically, I would assume, where you're just looking to cast freed from the real, make infinite colorless mana, sink that into one of the mana filters to have infinite blue, and then do whatever, capsize, Archaeomancer stuff, whatever you're going to end up doing with that. I think this commander's decent. We did get a new mana filter in this set that's 1 mana, that's tutorable with Trinket Mage, and we have a few others that are playable. I don't think it's amazing, but I do think it's a decent mono blue option.
I mean, this reminds me of Avalanche Color. Like, doesn't it kind of? Like, it's just a mono blue free deck, right? Like, Avalanche Color is a little safer, but a little slower than this, right?
Yeah, Avalanche also has the beatdown backup plan, which is
exactly
nice.
Exactly. But this is 1 mana though, right? That's kind of cute. Like I feel that this has a cute. They both have their up and downs, but you know it's kind of just dealing with mono blue, right?
I mean, theoretically, you can win turn 3 with this thing, right? Turn 1, Omen Hawker. Turn 2, any 2 or less artifact that filters mana for colorless into colored mana. Turn 3, freed from the real. Just go.
Yep, win the game. Yep.
Which is cute. But you are looking for specifically one card. You have to find the freed from the real.
That also only just gives us infinite mana. There's no payoff.
You have to find the cap size as well, or whatever else.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of hoops, but it's something.
A lot of hoops. Yeah. I mean, it gives us hope. Like, we're still holding out on the hope, right?
Yeah, we're trying. But, next up, we've got another one that's been a large talking point. We've got Phyrexian Censor. This is a mono white commander. 2 and a white mana for a 3/3 Phyrexian wizard that says each player can't cast more than one non-Phyrexian spell each turn, and non-Phyrexian creatures enter the battlefield tapped. So we've got non-Phyrexian Rule of Law and non-Phyrexian, I don't remember what that other card is called that makes creatures enter tapped, but Blind Obedience.
Blind Obedience and Thalia. Yeah.
It's a decent card. Dice to Bolt, which is my main problem with it as compared to Spirit of the Labyrinth, which is a 1/4 with Rule of Law effect. But it is a 3/3, so it punches people. It's got that. And I guess if you want to try some mono-white Phyrexian stuff, maybe?
I mean, there's some bombs in Phyrexians. Like, the first card that should come to everyone's mind in our format, Suture Priest. That's a Phyrexian. That card's nuts. Like, that card is just nuts. Out of all the commanders that we got, this is the one that does it for me. This is the one, to me, that is the game changer. Now, with that thought, I do have to hit you guys with this one. This is not a deck you're going to pick up and be like, I could just pilot this. This is a deck that you need to run the gauntlet. You need to know the format. You need to be able to understand the ins and outs of everything. And I think it's a lot to ask for. Like, that's the biggest problem I see with this card, right? Because one is going to be slow. To be able to beat that 90-minute time frame, you're going to have a dedicated pilot that can truly understand how to turn the corner and end the game, right? Like, that's the largest hurdle that this card has for it.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good card. I think it'll suffer in the same way that Stacks decks can suffer in other formats, where it's like, especially in CDH, where it's like, okay, and before my turn starts, I'm gonna bounce the Censor. But you are in white, so you do get ways to protect the Censor from that.
But doesn't that bring the new dynamic, though, right? So I like that. So in competitive play, right, in true like tournament play, we got our timer, we got the whole shebang, right? This is exactly like that CEDH thought process. It's identical. If the table's safe, no one's comboing until you remove my stacks piece. Now here's the issue. If EOT you bounce the piece, what stops the other players from helping me protect this? Because if they're doing that, you need to stop them as well. So it gives you that dynamic which has never existed in the format thus far. So this will bring a whole new style
I wouldn't say
of play.
never. Spirit of the Labyrinth has been a legal commander for a long time. No one plays it.
Well,
It has existed.
Okay. True.
Well as, I don't know if that's great for this being in a tournament, in the sense that it's like everyone's protecting the stacks piece. So it's more so a question of, can this deck actually close out the game, really? So we'll just have to see.
That's hard. That's the thing, though, right? Like, but there are cards in mono white that can do it 100%, and I don't think so. The problem with Labyrinth, right? Spirit of the Labyrinth, is that it's an enchantment as well, and it does make it more susceptible to more hate, like just accidental hate.
Yeah,
right? So,
it dies to more enchantment removal, doesn't die to all the bolts. So it's got its ups and downs. Yep.
Exactly. So.
Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the last commander that I have at least brought up to talk about today. and that's Stormclaw Rager, a new Rakdos commander. 1 black and a red, 3 mana for a 2/2 Ogre Warrior. You can pay 1 mana and sacrifice another creature or artifact as a cost, and then put a +1/+1 counter on Stormclaw Rager and draw a card. This is sorcery speed, though. I think having a sacrifice outlet that draws a card and potentially protects itself from damage removal or gives you just a raw win condition is good. Sorcery speed sucks, especially on a sack outlet. But I think this card's decent.
So, I'm going to throw 2 things out there. One of them is 3 mana. 2 mana is like the golden number to get underneath the counter spells, right? Where the blue decks are developing. So you're pretty clear to go on turn 2 with something. 3 mana hurts a bit. But there are other 3 mana cards that still work, right? So we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. But now we're hitting the sorcery speed. So now we're feeling kind of bad on the sacrifice. We got to pay a mana. And we can't sack itself, which is kind of bad against oubliettes and other things. So now we're feeling a little worse. It's also a 2/2. What? If I tap out and you fiery cannonade me with your Malcolm in play, I'm going to have the super feel bads about this, right? Like, feeling really bad.
The 2/2 matters as much since this thing puts counters on itself. I'm not too worried about the base 2/2. I am very much worried about the sorcery speed, especially when we already have Charforger from a recent set. This has way more card advantage than Charforger does. But it does cost mana investment, and it is sorcery speed.
It reminds me of like a weird conglomeration of Jury and Ravenous Squirrel, right? Like, it's like a weird smushing between the two, right? Like, we're going to let you draw. We want you to get bigger. But then you still need to pay the mana for it, but not as much mana for it. Like, it's just a weird card. Like,
yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's awful, but I don't think it's spectacular by any means.
Yeah, but let's move on to the next section that I'm pretty excited for. They gave us a very sweet, nice little playset of functional reprints that I'm pretty pumped about. Dallas. So let's just start. Let's start off with our good old Village Rites. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I meant to say Corrupted Conviction. Functional reprint of Village Rites. Same card, same everything. Identical. Love it. Love it. And I already mentioned Jury. Love it.
Yep.
The more redundancy decks like Jury get, the stronger those decks become. The more viable they are for tournament play, and I love it. So, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, functional reprints are great. They help fringe decks that are on very specific game plans, and as well, they can just help the good decks that are already playing these effects, right? So if your deck really needs sack outlets, hey, another Village Rites, amazing. If your deck already plays them and is good as just a generic card, cool. If you want a second one, you can play it.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, that's going to go for this entire list, right? Like, we don't have to go too deep. I mean, these few cards they're just insane, right? Like, we have Scroll Shift, which is the new acrobatic maneuver. It's just another blink effect in mono white. But I will throw these 2 cents out there. Scroll Shift is effectively the strongest one of them. So technically it's not true functional reprint. The one difference this card has is that it exiles up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment you control. The older variants were only creatures. And the fact that this is artifact or enchantment is a huge deal. So it lets you play around with like Oblivion Rings and Journey to Nowheres and like random rocks that have an ETB like Scry 1 or Lose a Life or Gain a Life and things like that. So it's this card's insane. Like,
I thought Acrobatic Maneuver had the other text on it as well. I guess it was only creature. So yeah, this is not a functional reprint. It adds 2 new targets for artifacts.
Yep, this is
worth noting.
Yeah, this is closer. Yeah, this is closer to Flicker of Fate, where Flicker of Fate could hit your opponent's creatures, but it also can hit enchantments, which is really relevant in a lot of games. So I think this card's bonkers. Like, this card's bonkers. It went straight into my Abdel deck. No need to say more, right? And then Ren's Resolve. Like, Ren's Resolve, Reckless Impulse, Twinsies. Thank you. I will have another. Like,
busted card.
Yeah, can't say more, right? And then our last one. Okay, I will say this one doesn't see any play. It's called Volcanic Spite. It's just 3 damage, target creature, target creature, planeswalker, or battle. And then you could tuck a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. If you do, you get to draw a card. It's nice. It's a reprint, right? Like, it's the same as Fire Prophecy, excluding this can hit a battle or a planeswalker, or Fire Prophecy just can only hit a creature.
Irrelevant for our format currently. So
exactly.
Reprint.
Yep. But I like it, right? Like, it's cute. I'm hoping this will see play soon. Like, what do you think, man? Like, out of all of those, what does this make you feel?
I mean, I don't think the Spite's gonna see play until we get a deck that really cares about that secondary effect, or, mono red decks that are packing just an absurd amount of removal, like maybe Stormkill, if that gets good. But yeah, functional reprints, cool.
Well, I will say you did touch upon it, and this is something I definitely wanted to throw out there for everybody. This does help the lower decks on the totem pole start to rise up, but that also says that the top decks on the totem pole can now push you down harder, right?
Yep. Yeah, it's a tough one. But
it is.
Before we talk about any more new cards, I do want to mention that we did get a downshift in this set. Fairgrounds Trumpeter. It's 2 and a green for a 2/2 elephant. The beginning of each end step, important to note, if a +1/+1 counter was put on a permanent under your control this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on the Trumpeter. This has been downshifted from uncommon to common, so you don't have to play this in the command zone anymore. It's just a big beat stick. Worth noting, if you're trying to build one of these new +1/+1 counter decks, I guess, it gives you more value, but it's just a beat stick.
Right, it's a pretty cool card. Like, I don't really see it seeing play, be honest with you. Like, casual, right? This is going to be insane. Like, this thing's going to be monstrous. But excluding that, like, I don't really see this going in many places. So.
Well, yeah, with that, we can start moving on to new cards. So, let's talk about artifacts first. First up, we've got the Beamtown Beat Stick. This is 1 red for an equipment that says equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has menace. And whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player or battle, create a treasure token, and it equips for 2 mana. So this card is kind of pretty good in my opinion. 1 mana for slapping down this equipment.
This card's nuts. This card's nuts, dude. This card's nuts.
Like, menace is great. Treasures are great. 1 mana is great. The only part that I don't like is equipped for 2. But I still think this card's pretty good.
It's like equipped for 1, though, right? Like, you get a treasure. You get a treasure back,
you have to
right?
Connect. But yeah, still.
But you get menace, right? Like, everything on this card is good. Like, this card's great. Yeah. Like, 1 mana? What? Like, this card's great. Like, why do I not put this on, like, a Ketis, right? Like, why would you not put this, like, on a Dargo, right? Like, this just seems like this is great. Like, this is one of the coolest 1-drop equipments in the format.
Yeah, putting this on Dargo is disgusting. Turns it into 8 power,
right?
And gives it menace.
Right?
Pretty
so
nasty.
Now you gotta double block it, like, and now I'm gonna get a treasure, so if you kill it, I'll just recast
Yeah.
it by
If you
sacking the
don't,
beat
it'll
stick.
two-shot you, all that fun stuff.
Right. This is awesome. This is like hilarious. And like over time for Dario Kedis, they have been printing these like awkward living weapons and for Mirrodin equipments that have slowly been letting Kedis get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Kedis could get like 6-7 power now in the deck by accident. This is hilarious. Menace? I'm a big fan of this card, man. I'm a big fan, if you can't tell. Love the card. Think it's sauce.
Yeah. But next we've got Bladed Battle Fan. This is 1 and a black for an equipment that has flash, and when it enters the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control, and it gets indestructible until end of turn. And then the equipped creature gets +1/+0, and it equips for 1. So obviously the big thing with this card is instant speed, 2 mana, give a creature indestructible. It's another one of these 2 mana effects, 2 mana protection effects for black. It gets the added benefit of being an artifact that sits in play. It gives +1/+0 passively to the creature that you gave indestructible. After that, it's pretty irrelevant, but it will stay on the creature, which is relevant for some decks.
I mean, it's good to have a side with cranioplating, right? Like, the more better black equipments they give us, the better cranioplating will become in the future, right?
Yep, just
So,
a good new protection spell that is an artifact.
Well, I won't. So I will throw those 2 cents out here. You know, I can't argue with you, right? Or no, I'm gonna argue with you. In tournament play, we're losing to bounces, so indestructible is sometimes pretty irrelevant, right?
Yeah, but in black, these are the effects you get, right? You get Undying Malice, Undying Evil, you get indestructible. You get stuff that resurrects it if it dies, or indestructible. So for black, this is just another...
Yeah, pretty on curve. Spell. Yep. Yep.
They don't really get bounce protection.
Yep, so we're still sadly susceptible to the same things we lose to already. I do like it in Jury, though. Like, I'm gonna keep mentioning Jury for a few of these cards because I do think that with a few of these new printings, it's going to put Jury from like that high power spectrum that it's on and jump it into where it needed to be for the tournament play finally. Like, I think this set is going to allow it to get in there.
I'll have some rich get richer talk about Gretchen later. But moving on to the final artifact, which is yet another equipment. 1 white for an equipment that gives +1/+1 and vigilance. The card's called Core Halberd. I didn't say the name. But yeah, 1 mana equipment gives +1/+1 and vigilance, equipped for 1. Vigilance is relevant in specific matchups and specific decks, but this is 1 mana equipment, equips for 1. It gives a decent keyword and pumps power and toughness. Pretty simple, pretty effective, I think.
Card sauce too. Like, this card's sauce. Like, they did an awesome job with these 3 cards. These 3 cards are awesome.
Yeah, typically I hate equipment, but these equipment are pretty good.
Dude, I'm pumped. Like, I love it. I am about it. These are great. Play them. That's what I have to say. I think these should see play. The vigilance is so real. Like, if I put this on a gut, I'm feeling great, right? Because now you can't Fiery Cannonade or Breath Weapon my gut. And now my gut has vigilance, which is kind of just hilarious. And then, if you kill the gut, whatever, or I just end up sacking this to make another skeleton, like, that's hilarious, right? Like, these cards are just awesome, right? Like, it's great. I'm happy. They did a good job. Super pumped.
Alrighty. You want to take us over to creatures for a bit here, Chris?
Oh, yeah, man. Let's make this happen, bro. Let's make this happen. So, let's start off. We got a pretty cool little black creature here. We have Aether Blade Agent. I will say they did a great job with these transformed creatures. I will say, so I don't know about you, Dallas, but I think these are kind of hard cards to judge. because
they're
since
bad for the most part.
do you really?
I think they usually have a very high activation cost, and they're all sorcery speed transforms. And for most of the commons, the backsides just aren't that good. So I don't like most of them, but this one I think is decent. I think this is the best one, so I put it on the list.
Yeah. Well, like, I think they're all decent. I think they're all decent, but I think they're hard to judge because we've never had something that could just transform on command like this, right? Like, just say, oh, I'm flipping you to flip you. Like, there's a few that, you know, sack a creature, do this, do that. But, like, the way these are worded is kind of unique, and it just kind of makes it hard to judge for me. But let's go to the card itself. So, like I said, Aether Blade Agent. It's a 2-mana, 1/1 human rogue, which I actually think the creature type is relevant. It has Death Touch, which this is the big selling point for this card, right? The Death Touch. But it's 4 colorless and a Phyrexian blue. Transform it, sorcery speed. And then it turns into a Phyrexian rogue, so it loses human, which is a big deal, but it stays a rogue. And has Death Touch still, which is a good thing. And whenever you deal combat damage to a player or battle, draw a card. So it's like a Shadow Mage Infiltrator, right? Like, this thing is like getting it back old school. 5 mana. Damn, that's a lot, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's 4 mana, but like, yeah, this is the best backside, I think, on any of these flip cards, because it says draw a card. I think most of them have pretty unimpressive flip sides, and the front sides are pretty abysmal on most of them. So, in general, I don't think these are going to be competitively viable. I think this one's fine if you care about Death Touch or creatures getting through at face value. If you want a 2-mana 1/1 Death Toucher that has potential to scale into the late game.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this one's actually pretty saucy because the Death Touch does make it harder for, like, a Dargo to come at you. But also, too, like, it could just free swing at somebody. Just to free swing at you, and you're not blocking this with your Gretchen, right? Like, that's not happening. Yeah. You're swinging this, and they're not blocking with Gut. They're like, yeah, I'm taking the 1. Like, hit me.
Now, once again, if this thing flipped at instant speed, swing it, threaten to flip it as card draw, like, that would be great. But it doesn't, so...
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. But let's move on to the next one. So... we have Enduring Bond Warden. This is a cute card. It's a 1 white, 0/1 human scout. Backup 1. So backup 1 is one of the newer mechanics. So when this creature enters the battlefield, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature. So it doesn't have to be your creature, which I don't think is relevant, but it's kind of weird that it is. And if it's another creature, it gains the following ability until end of turn, which is the ability on this card. And it's when this creature dies, put its counters on target creature you control. Mouthful, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's cute. If modular was a thing, this would be awesome, right? Because you get them one of them big old modular creatures. Put this into play. Put it on that big old dude, and now you could like slam the counters to a non-modular card. It's kind of cool, right? But like.
Yep. Yeah, it's like you play this in your Selesnya counters deck, put it on something that's swings in, it dies, you put the counters on this, then this can swing in and die and put its counters on something else. Yeah, it's like fine. Another just big +1/+1 counter thing. I think these cards will be relevant if +1/+1 counters are good. But I think in general, they're not going to be great in competitive until they get a lot more support. Yeah,
agreed. But let's move on to our next one. We have the Trumpeter, the one you already talked about, our elephant. So we already have that one. So let's move to Portent Tracker. So this is a 2-mana 1/1. I think I'm stealing your thunder here. I don't think this is my card.
Read it.
Let me retract my statement. Read it. Okay, we're reading this. I think we should just cut this card, man. This card looks like garbage. What is this? It's a satyr. It's not even a good creature type. All right. So what is this? Portent Tracker. This is a 2-mana 1/1 satyr scout. Tap ability is untap target land. And then the next tap ability isn't relevant for us whatsoever. It says choose target battle. If an opponent protects it, remove a defense counter from it. Otherwise, put a defense counter on it. Activate it only as a sorcery. So we don't have battles.
Nope.
So that makes this card automatically bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Bad.
I just put it on here to show that battles don't exist in our format. But in all seriousness, this is another 2-mana land untapper for Gretchen and Tatiova if they want to play land untappers, Parcel Beast, whatever other Simic land untapper deck you want to play. We got another 2-mana one, which means we have 3 2-mana land untapper creatures now.
I mean, this card has sick art, dude. Like, this card is also sick very cool. Art. Yeah, the art is sick.
But yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say about this one. 2-mana land untapper.
Sauce. Yeah. Sauce. This is me with Ren's Resolve, right? Like, you're going to let the decks that don't draw cards draw more cards? Thank you.
But yeah. That's all I gotta say.
All right. Let's go to a few of these other like weird creatures, right? So this next creature, I'm not gonna bother reading all the text on it. This card has a ton of text. It's gonna be easy. It's called Tidal Terror. It's a 6-mana 5/6 octopus. We don't care what it does. Yep. It has island cycling for 2.
Yep.
It gets us Mystic Sanctuary. What do you think about this thing, dude? This is good, right?
Yeah, like Mystic Sanctuary tutor, and it also tutors for our new dual lands. Yeah, good card.
This card's good.
If you want to tutor Mystic Sanctuary.
It's kind of like cards like this get overlooked, right? Like that's so weird. Island cycling.
And hey, it's a late game beat stick if you need it to be.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So next on the list, a Trailblazing Historian. It's a 2-mana 1/3 human shaman. It's a hasting creature. Another target creature gains haste until end of turn. There's a bajillion of these. They just made another one. They're all different power and toughnesses, but they all do the same damn thing. Card's good. I think this is a good include in Rocco. That's why I think this card's sauce. It's 2 mana. The fact that it has haste itself is
that's the big one.
A big deal.
Yeah, right? You can just drop this on your combo turn and give the haste to another creature. So I think this is good.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's move on. Wary Thespian. This is a weird one. 2 mana 3/1 cat druid. When it enters the battlefield or dies, surveil 1. It's a beater. It's a 3/1.
Yep, 2 mana 3/1 with card filtering attached.
Right?
Not bad, I guess.
I think this card's really good.
It's good for aggressive Gruul decks for sure.
There's only one.
Yep.
There's only one.
Those Selesnya counter decks probably play this as just a solid 2-drop, solid aggressively statted 2-drop, stuff like that.
I mean, I think this goes right in Gruul Amber. The Amber Hardy deck that is emerging now, deck's solid, and this is a 2 mana 3/1 beat stick, right?
Yep.
A Hardy trigger makes it a 6/4. That's a solid beater, and the fact that you could like fix your draws if needed. I mean, it's cute, and it's on curve, it's strong, it's fast, it beats you down. Does the job. So.
Yeah. There is one creature we did skip over that I think is relevant to mention. It's just Saiba Cryptomancer. It's just a 2 mana 0/1 in blue with flash, backup 1, and hexproof. So it can give hexproof to a creature at instant speed. Just another blue protection spell. And then it sits on the battle and eats edicts, whatever you need it to do.
Yeah.
Just a decent
It's a moon
card.
folk. It's a moonfolk and a ninja.
Yeah, it is
Those
a
are like the
ninja.
two
Um,
hilarious creature types. Like, what is this thing doing? Right? Like,
but yeah, it's a decent card. Um,
yeah,
worth mentioning at least. But
yeah.
yeah, with that I think
And
we're.
then
Oh, you got something else?
yeah, like we have the Alabaster host, right? Like that I did skip over that one. And then I also skipped over the Timberland Ancient.
Yeah, the ancient is
They're
less relevant on the actual creature, but I actually like the alabaster host as the actual creature.
um so these are the other opposing. So this is the forest cycling and this is the plain cycling creatures. So we're kind of getting off on our little like tangent between the two of them, guys. Sorry about that. But there so let's go with the Alabaster first. It enters the battlefield, exile a target creature an opponent controls until Alabaster Host leaves the battlefield. It is a 6 mana overcosted Fiend Hunter, right? Like
Yep.
that's the way I look at this card.
Yep. It's a modal big boy fiend hunter. It's fine. Yeah. I've seen people talk about it. I think it's fine. And
I think
same
it's
with the
awful.
forest
I think it's
cycling.
awful.
The forest cycling
I,
one I think is fine for if you're playing like some mid-range stompy mono green deck or something. It has reach and trample. It's a 6 mana 6/5 with force cycling too. It's
yeah, actually,
it's fine.
I can't get behind either one of them. Like I think they're awesome in like general, though,
I
right?
would
Like
play them
generally,
if
I
I
think they're
really
sus.
cared about a forest or a plains. Otherwise, I would not play these cards.
Yeah, but we don't have those Mystic Sanctuaries, right? Like
Not
so.
yet.
Eh,
You never know.
not yet, not yet. So they're on the radar. How about that one? We'll throw that out
Yeah.
there. But let's move on, guys. Let's move on. So our next category is going to be the enchantments from the set. We have a pretty. I'm not that impressed by a few of the cards, but I do believe our man Dallas here is impressed by one in particular.
Yeah,
But
I am.
yeah. So let me lead us off here. Let me lead us off here. So we have Blighted Burgeoning. It's a 3 mana in green enchant land aura. When it enters the battlefield, incubate 2. And then it has when enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of any one color. I already know you're going to think this card's horrendous, so we could just move on. So let's just move on to the next one.
We get another land enchantment for Gretchen. Yay, and Weavers and whatever else, blah blah blah. Also, in case you don't know, the keyword incubate is new. It creates an incubator token with 2 +1/+1 counters on it, since it's incubate 2. And you pay 2 mana and transform this artifact, and it transforms into a 0/0 Phyrexian artifact creature. So it makes an artifact with X counters on it, where X is incubate X, and then you can pay 2 to transform it into an artifact creature, and it keeps those counters. So this can make a body as a blocker, if you're playing Gretchen or Weavers, Edict, Fodder, stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just another land enchantment that makes mana. So, more consistency for the Freed from the Real Simic decks. Good stuff.
I'm gonna throw this out there. Like you said it already once. The rich are getting richer. I mean, there's a few cards in this that are specifically for Gut and Dargo and for Gretchen, right? Like it's just like and Weavers. I mean, it's just gonna keep getting better and better for us. Like the fact that they're printing cards like this is awesome. It's awesome. So, but let's move on. So this is one I wish it was 1 less mana. If this card was 3 mana,
No.
I would love this card.
This card would be busted at 3 mana.
Okay, hang on. No way. Alright, so Crystal Carpus. It's a 4 mana aura. Enchanted creature gets +3/+3 in Ward 2, and it has cycling for 2. If this was 3 mana, if you slam this on 4, and my creature is a 3/3, so it's going to make it a 6/6, and you bolt me in response, gonna feel horrible.
I mean, yeah, but that's true of literally every aura ever, right? Like, that's just
yeah.
kind of how it works.
Like, if you flame slash me for 3, and my creature's a 1/1, I'm gonna feel bad. Like, there's just Ward 2 at 4 mana. I want Ward 4 for 4 mana, right?
Yeah,
I'm greedy.
I mean,
Give me my Ward
yeah,
that I
but it's
deserve
got
at
the
4
modality with cycling, and it does pump a decent bit. So I still think the card's okay. But yeah, it's definitely not something I'm aching to put in any of my decks.
I see you putting this in your deck to cycle it.
Yep,
That's what I see
pretty
you
much.
doing with this card.
Yeah,
Like,
this is a mono green card draw card for me.
Yep. Yep. It makes me feel bad because it's so close to being good. It's so close. So close. But, alright, let's go to the next. I love the name on this card, by the way. Disturbing Conversation. This card is... I don't know. I don't think it's that good, but Dallas has a little something to say about it. So it's a 2 mana blue enchant aura. Flash enchanted creature. When Disturbing Conversation enters the battlefield, each player mills 2 cards. That is my favorite text on the card, by the way.
It is the best text on the card, aside from Flash.
And then it says, enchanted creature gets -X/-0, where X is the number of cards in its controller's graveyard. Doesn't do much for me. But this is great to use against Tatiova. They go to combo off, Mystic Sanctuary loop. You're like, ha, mill 2 cards. Mill your Sanctuary. Got him. Right?
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's what it does.
But there's
it does
there's
actually...
a lot of cards that do that, though, right?
It does actually interact with Tatiova combo. Yeah, because of that.
Yeah,
which is funny.
Yep.
But the big thing for me is that if your meta is riddled with Dargo for some
awesome reason. Awesome reason. That's what I thought. Amazing reasons.
This is great for locking out Dargo without killing it. Because Dargo is already putting cards in their yard, and then you get guaranteed -2/-0, and it's instant speed. Blah blah blah. It's just really good at taking down specifically Dargo. You can also put it on like Malcolm or Breaches, stuff like that. I think it's a decent card.
A 1/5 Dargo attacking somebody would be hilarious. It's like, I'm coming in for 1, bro. I got this. I got trampled. But all right, let's move on to the next card. Let's move on to the next one. So we have Stasis Field. Art on this card is okay. I have to say this. I've been saying this a lot. They did amazing with the art in this set. I'm gonna throw that out there. So I could stop saying how awesome the art on these cards is. But Stasis Field. Card's got even a cool name too, right? So it's 1 in a blue, enchantment aura. Enchanted creature has base power and toughness 0/2, has defender, and loses all other abilities. This card's sauce. This card's good.
Yeah, we get a Kasmina's Transmutation that doesn't let it kill anything when it's blocking, and it gives it defender so it can't swing in to try to trade. Stuff like that. Pretty good.
I will say this again, and I've already said it once. I wish it was white. I wish this card was white. White has... this card would be so good if it was white. So good if it was white.
Well,
like,
we did get a similar card for white, conveniently, but you know.
Oh. So we have Realm Breaker's Grasp, 1 in 1 white, enchantment aura, enchant artifact or creature, enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities.
It's close. Not as good. Nowhere near as good.
I want to hear loses all other. I want to put this on a Malcolm.
They're never gonna give it to white. You know?
I want it on Malcolm. I want to go Malcolm. No.
But hey,
not because
you slap this on Layweaver. You know.
Get out of here! I'm not slapping this on Layweaver.
You slap this on Gretchen. Gretchen doesn't have an outlet anymore. You slap this on Dargo. Dargo can't swing. it still does things to a lot of relevant commanders. It does not do anything to some other relevant commanders. Like Tatiova does literally nothing to. Um, it makes it so Malcolm and Breaches can't swing, at least, and they have to find
Yeah.
other pirates, but it doesn't stop Malcolm from comboing off or any of that stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
which is the biggest thing. That's why I like the stasis field, right?
yeah,
The lose all other abilities is
yeah, Stasis
nuts,
Field
right?
is better. Because it also has all of the same text that this card has, aside from being able to enchant artifacts.
Artifacts. Yeah. Yep. So, but I mean, let's start to take this home. Now we have our instants, right? So we have instant and sorceries left. Um, I'm a fan of a few of these cards. You're actually a bit more pumped on this card than I am, which is kind of strange because, you know, me being the gut player, you'd think I'd put this in my deck, but it's 2 mana. And let's hit it off with Angelic Intervention. So we have 1 in a white instant. Target creature or planeswalker you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice until end of turn. If it's a creature, put a 1/1 counter on it. That's kind of really good, right? There's only been one other card in our format that's been able to dodge colorless, right?
Yeah.
So it's a good card, don't get me wrong, but 2 mana is rough.
Yeah,
And
being
that's
at
like
2 is rough, but I do think dodging colorless is becoming more and more relevant with decks like Third Path Iconoclast and stuff like that. Being able to give protection from colorless to ensure that you can get in for damage. The +1/+1 counter can be relevant, like you said, with the equipment for gut, getting it out of fiery cannonade range, stuff like that. And it's still a protection spell.
It makes me want to play it. Yeah, it makes me want to play it. So, like, don't get me wrong, but like the 2 mana, like I know it's awkward, but 2 mana is a lot in a deck like Gut.
Yep.
So it's.
I think this card is playable.
Yes, for sure. You will most likely see people experimenting with this card for tournament play. Like, could almost guarantee it.
Yep.
But let's cut short. Baracha. We have our next card. Cut short. 2 colorless and a white. Instant. Convoke. Destroy target planeswalker that was activated this turn or tap creature. Now, Dallas, let's talk about this before we keep diving into these instants and sorceries. I think they did an awesome job with the Convoke in here, right?
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Convoke makes a lot of these cards playable, in my opinion, especially for token decks, and maybe some token decks that haven't seen a lot of play, like Kadira. Kadira abuses the hell out of Convoke. She makes an absurd amount of creatures. And they're white creatures, so they can pay for white pips on Convoke cards.
Yep. Like, I'm a fan that they're giving us Convoke, and not a little Convoke, like a lot. Like, they gave us a lot of cards with Convoke, which I was pretty impressed with, and all the cards they gave us are all playable. I mean, they're not the best by any means, but they are very playable, and I mean, I could see people cutting for some of these cards and introducing them into deck lists, right?
Yep, for sure. I think cut short is decent. Hits tapped creatures, which is a good chunk of non-blue combo decks. It'll still work against, and it works against most other decks, so I think it's fine.
Yep. But let's move on to the next one. If you want to take us off with this one, Dallas, and we'll just keep going.
Sure. We got a Deadly Duration. It's 2 and 2 black pips for an instant kill. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Create a treasure. This is not great in my opinion. It has double pips and it's a 4 mana kill spell, but it is instant speed and it does give you a treasure. So if your deck cares about treasures, maybe. But in general, I don't think this card's amazing. We have a lot better 2 and 3 mana options and even 1 mana options or 0.
Yeah, they've been doing this a lot with cards, right? They did a 4 mana one that gives you food. They did a
Yep.
5 mana one that gives you Dark Ritual, right? Like they've done a lot of these that just like incentivize you to try to get up in the curve. But it's like we've mentioned certain commanders and stuff like that already. Like Dargo is kind of like the poster child that makes you play Fair Magic in tournament play. Like if you see a Dargo and you decided to come with a 5 mana removal spell, you're having a bad day, right? Like
Yep.
it is. It's like you are depending on the rest of the table. So
Yeah. And then next up we've got Ephara's Dispersal, 2 and a blue for a 3 mana instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets an attacking creature, and this is return target creature to its owner's hand and Surveil 2. So it's a bounce spell that gives you card selection, and if you're playing against aggressive decks in your meta or in your tournament metas, 1 mana bounce a creature Surveil 2 is busted. At 3 mana, it's fine. It's not great if it's not hitting an attacking creature, but it's still at least interaction.
I think this card's sneakily way over the top. Like way over the top. Like, alright, hear me out. Hear me out, guys. Tell me if I'm crazy. This is gonna sound way off of left field, but trust me, this is a play pattern that I've already done in the deck with cards that are worse than this one. If I attack you with an Abdo, I hit you, you take the damage, I target bounce Abdo, because I'm gonna do it after damage, right? At the end of combat. Still in combat though.
That is
you take it,
legal.
bounce them, surveil, give me back all the draw cards underneath the Abdel. I get to filter what I'm drawing, which typically I was just bouncing Abdel or flickering Abdel without getting to see the next parts. This is way better because no one lets you remove the Abdel. Once you resolve the Abdel, they don't let you kill the Abdel. They just take the hit. They're like, hit me with it. I'm not killing it. It's stuck there forever. So you have to actively bounce or remove your own Abdel. But let's say I'm not hitting my Abdel. I'm bouncing your Malcolm. I'm bouncing your Dargo. I'm bouncing your Kedis. I'm bouncing, like, this seems legit, right? Like, am I crazy with this thought process here?
Yeah, I think it's a solid card. Pretty good. Surveil 2 is pretty powerful.
I mean, it helps you feed a treasure cruise.
Yeah,
right?
Like it helps your delve, helps your other graveyard shenanigans, helps your Archaeomancers, all that jazz. Good card.
Yeah, this card's good. Like, this card is, and it doesn't look good. That's the weird part. Like, this, most people are gonna draft chaff, right? Just throw it right out the window and be like, garbage. And I'm like, no, please. Trying to catch it in the wind, like, no.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Instant Speed Divination for 4 mana, but it also has Convoke. Draw 2 cards. Meeting of the Minds. 4 mana, 1 blue. It's Convoke, draw 2. It's Instant Speed Divination, but, you can just tap your creatures to cast it.
I mean, you already said the deck that this goes in, right? Third path, like, yep. It's just like
third path.
Slots.
This card's busted.
Yeah, this card's nuts. Like, this card's nuts.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of these blue Convoke cards are gonna be, and red are gonna be insane in third path Iconoclast.
Yeah,
and that deck was already pretty good in my opinion. So,
yep.
Yikes.
Agreed.
But yeah, that's a pretty simple one. So we'll just move on to Moment of Truth. We get a new Anticipate, kind of. It's 1 in a blue for instant speed. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of those cards into your hand, 1 into the graveyard, and 1 onto the bottom of your library. So you get a look at the top 3, 1 to hand, 1 to yard, which is notably pretty powerful. Once again, for blue with Archaeomancers, Treasure Cruises, all that jazz. Fueling the yard is very strong. So a cantrip that fuels the hand and the yard. It's pretty good.
So we did mess this up. This is technically a functional reprint. It's exactly like Telling Time. Excluding Telling Time left a card on top of your library. That was the difference.
I think the graveyard is notable enough that I don't want to call it a functional reprint. Because a lot of the cantrips are similar, but fueling the yard is just very good.
Yep, for sure, for sure. Like it's like consider versus opt, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
that style of thing. So I'm about it. I like it. I don't know if I'd play it though. 3 cards. I'd rather just play, like Impulse,
Yeah.
right? Or Shimmer. I like to go 4 cards deep, right? Instead of 3.
I think this is an option for mono blue.
Yep, for sure. I could see it.
Maybe a few select decks that really go hard on cantrips, but yeah, just another 2-mana cantrip. Looks good. And then our last instant, we have Shatter the Source. This is a 6-mana instant. 5 and a red. But it has Convoke, of course. And choose 1. Shatter the Source deals 6 damage to target creature, planeswalker, or battle, or destroy target artifact. So this is creature or artifact removal.
It kills my Dargo. What are they doing? What are they thinking?
They printed more Dargo removal for 0 mana.
What are they doing?
Realistically, there's not many decks that can cast this for 0 mana, but the decks that can, like Third Path Iconoclast, this card is very good. And even if you're casting this for like 2 mana, pretty good. 3 mana is fine.
You're killing every creature in the format, right?
Yeah. Once you get to 4 mana, it starts to get a bit rough. But yeah, I think at 3 or less mana, if you can consistently cast it for that, pretty good card.
I mean, I don't know a creature that doesn't just kill in the format, right? Kills them all.
Yeah, these Selesnya +1/+1 counter decks. That's what.
Uh-oh.
The 8/8 hexproof. But yeah.
No, fine. You got me. You got me. It can't kill those. It can't kill those.
But yeah, I think it's a solid card. But yeah, you want to take us home with these last few sorcery cards, Chris?
Oh yeah, man. Let's make this happen. So we have Rouse Reinforcements. This card kills me. I wish it was better. 1 and a red sorcery. Create 2 1/1 blue and red elemental creature tokens. How is the first 2 they print make 2 goblins, which are relevant? Kranko's Command and Dragonfire.
And instant speed.
Next one.
And
no, they're swords.
They're
sorcery.
Isn't Kranko's
they're sorceries.
instant speed?
No, they're both sorceries. All of them are sorceries. Then the next one they makes a hasting dinosaur and a human. And then this was just 2 blue-red elementals.
Oh,
but,
right.
Like,
the white ones are instant speed.
Yes, raise the alarm, and then those are instant speed. But, like, what is this? Who wants elemental tokens? And blue and red ones at that, bro. I don't want no blue and red elemental tokens.
I think more so this is just the fact that it makes tokens. If your deck cares about it, there's tokens. But yeah.
Yeah. But
it's not as good as the other ones for most decks.
Yeah, they're not relevant creature types in our format. Goblins are really a big deal. Humans may be a big deal. But elementals, it's just an off. It's just off. And blue and red, like, awkward cut. Like, what's the blue about? Like,
well, that's just like what they are. It's Ral. They're Ral's reinforcements.
Like, what are we? I was a bit disappointed with that. I'm not gonna lie. But all right, let's move on. That card's simple. It's as simple as it gets. Sunder the Gateway. This card says a lot. So it's 1 and a white sorcery. Choose 1. Destroy target non-token artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Incubate 2. Then another selection. Incubate 2. Then transform an incubator token you control.
So this is either a 2-mana 2/2 artifact creature, or if you have a bigger token, bigger than that, or it's removal that gives you an incubator token. It's a disenchant with upside.
Sorcery speed.
Yeah, sorcery
Don't
speed
no.
is rough.
Sorcery speed. I'd rather play disenchant.
If
Like
you care
you
about
start.
the body, it's there. I guess maybe this is playable in Kadira, just because it's a token that you get to leave in play that is difficult to remove, and no one wants to actively remove just an incubator token that's not doing anything. So that's like free
Mhm.
rabbits in that deck, but that's very niche, obviously.
This card, this next card is sauce. This next card's ridiculous. Temporal cleansing. I know. Okay, I already know it. If people listen to me, this is the last card we're doing too, so this is gonna make it even worse for me. I think this card is nuts. I know I'm not gonna get a lot of agreeing with this. If you guys think I'm crazy, comment below. Let me know how crazy you think I am. But I think this card's bonkers. I think there's something to be said for this card. Temporal Cleansing. 3 in a blue sorcery with Convoke. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it into their library, second from the top or on the bottom. What? Second from the top or on the bottom? What? You make them redraw it. That's awesome. Like,
Yeah,
I love it.
I play Memory Lapse. I
Like,
think that card's great. I think making people redraw the cards that you're dealing with is good. A lot of people go, no, that's not good. You removed it for a
it's
reason, which is
so
true.
good.
But they have to recast it and redraw it,
Yep.
which is good. Also, TPI casting this for 0 mana once again.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, it's
Like,
insane. And you could just hit your opponent's commander with this card, right? Like, that is Time Walk at its best, right? You're just like, get out of here.
I mean, it's
Like,
going to the command zone, but
but that's my point. It goes back to the command zone. So now we have the tax. Like, it's
yeah,
just
but that's just
good.
every removal spell ever.
Yes, but this isn't. This gives almost hard removal because this doesn't put it to their hand like a bounce spell. So this gives blue almost a hard removal spell by accident
Yeah,
because it's like,
close.
tuck it, tuck it, and they're like, do I tuck it? No, I'm not gonna tuck it. But but I already have to pay 2 more taxes to already kill once, and it gets you into this like weird zone where you're like, oh well, I don't need this card anymore. I'll put it on the bottom, and like it's just this card's good, and it keeps making, which I know I'm gonna be crazy again. Thought Scour keeps getting better. Just like Memory Lapse, just like cards like this, where you're gonna be like, "Oh, they put it there. I'm sitting with my Thought Scour."
Well, that
oh
doesn't,
yeah,
that doesn't do what you think it does. I think if it's a commander, anytime a commander changes zones, you're allowed to put it back to the.
well, you don't have
zone,
to.
I believe.
Yeah, I don't have to hit your commander, but if like I hit
But
your
yeah,
enchantment
like,
and you're like, I need to
anything
redraw
else,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just Thought Scour it into your graveyard, and I let you think you're redrawing it too, right? Like I just
Yeah.
like, oh, do your thing, or I use Thought Scour, my Archaeomancers bring it back. Like this, it's a synergy card, right? Like it doesn't make sense when you look at the card for what it is, but then when you start pairing it with all these other situations that you can get with this card's bonkers.
But yeah, and
Card's
it's
good.
non-land permanent, so it hits literally anything.
Yep.
Great card.
I mean, I see this hitting Relic of Progenitus because they're not going to blow it. They're going to be like, oh, well, I need to redraw it. And so now you 100% just time walked them. Like they're like, I got to redraw the card. I cannot pop it. So
yeah. But yeah,
that's
that about closes
yep.
it up. Any other comments, Chris?
Nah, man, I think that was pretty good. Like, I really enjoy the set. Like, I think everybody's gonna be pretty content with what we got going on, man. Just take us home.
Alrighty. Thank you guys for watching today. If you liked, be sure to leave a like down below. Leave comments. Subscribe if you're not already. This set's really cool. Should have a lot of fun stuff. Lots of good decks getting way better. And some bad decks might be climbing up as well. But yeah, hope you all have a great day, and we'll see you all next time.